So yeah, I think something very significant is coming. And that's not fear-mongering. I'm not saying it's going to be bad. It potentially could be amazing, because I do think people are waking up, and I do think the powers that be are being pressed. They are being challenged. It is psychological. That is why they're psyoping society left and fucking right constantly, because people are waking up. They don't know how to react to this. They've never had this situation before. They've pretty much been able to control the minds of most people, but now something's happening where the consciousness is rising and awakening in many, many people. Welcome back, everybody. As you can tell by the title of this video, which you might consider clickbait, but it's genuine and I mean it. And what I've addressed before in a few videos back is what's prompted me to speak out on the internet for, there's the possibility of many people watching. And this is available to anybody. Me, a very introverted and reserved person, typically keeping to myself, pretty quiet. A couple years ago, this would be fucking insane to me. So what on earth would prompt me to do such a thing? Why would I put myself out there like that? Well, obviously it must be something profound enough and powerful enough and motivating enough and inspiring enough for me to pursue this endeavor, to try to help anyone out there who is possibly feeling the same thing and can't explain it. I've felt this my entire life. I never knew what it was. Now I know what it is. That's what caused me so much anxiety and depression. That's why I drank. That's why I didn't love myself. That's why I did the things I did, because I was fucking lying to myself when I knew the truth. When you know what the truth is and you go against it, it's going to cause problems, which is why most people out there have emotional, spiritual, physical problems. They at least have a sense of the truth and they go against it, or they give their authority and power away to people that are deemed experts in the world, instead of going within or doing their own due diligence, doing their own research, looking into things themselves, or taking what they've seen through lived experience in life. And instead of saying, oh no, that's bullshit, taking a second look at it and realizing that, a lot of these things that we brush off in life are pointing towards something, what you might call coincidence. But it's a paradox. There's a lot going on. It's an extremely complex world. How do we put all these pieces together to make a sound and understandable picture of what's really going on in this world and this universe? So yeah, I feel like I'm a little bit ahead of the curve here as compared to most people, but there are many people like me on the internet. And one thing I'm noticing is many people exactly like me who have like 2 fucking followers on YouTube, and they're also spreading truth and knowledge and trying to do the same thing. A lot of people just like myself starting to speak on the same things that I'm speaking. What we're trying to do is get to the truth, because we inherently feel something is off. It doesn't matter what your background is, if you're atheist, if you're religious, if you're spiritual, it doesn't matter. You can ask the dumbest person on earth or the highest IQ person on earth. They will all tell you, and everyone in between will tell you when you ask them if it seems normal, what's going on in the world. Every single person's going to be like, fuck no, shit's fucking crazy. It's weird. We all can see that. It doesn't take conscious awakening to see that you're being lied to. It doesn't take conscious awakening to understand that your money is literally printed out of thin air and there's nothing backing it at all other than it's the global trade currency. And it became that because of the supreme power of the United States and their military and the threats and the absolute power, physical infrastructure and power backing that. That is why it's the global trade currency. Not because it's real, not because it's backed by something, not because it actually has tangible, real value, because it's been forced and accepted as the money that the world relies on. So you know your money is losing its value. You know you're being taxed 40, 50%, which is absolutely fucking criminal. There was no such thing as income taxes before. Interestingly, the Federal Reserve started. You know you're being psyoped constantly. If you're watching the news or keeping up with any sort of mainstream narratives, you know you're being fucking psyoped. If you're looking into conspiracy theories, which there are so many of nowadays, why do you think that is? It's a new thing every day. You can go down a million different rabbit holes. Exactly. Distraction. Who do you think's starting all of these conspiracy theories? You think it's internet wizards out there looking deep into all this stuff? Yeah. There's definitely some truth in there that regular everyday people find on their own. But how do you distract a population of people who are starting to wake up to what the fuck is going on? Well, you start flooding them with all sorts of true and made up information, mostly made up with a little bit of truth sprinkled in there. And if you go down a rabbit hole, you can find some truth in there, no matter which one it is. That's how they distract all these people that look into conspiracy theories. And then they just fucking flood the social media outlets with all these conspiracy theories. These aren't genuinely started conspiracy theories. It's the fucking deep state or the CIA, whoever's in the shadows, they're starting these conspiracy theories and they're flooding the internet with them so that you're constantly looking at the next one. It's all psychological warfare. It's to keep you distracted. So you know all this shit going on. You know you can't trust your government. You know your money's going to shit. You have no idea what your future or your children's future is going to look like. You know all these AI and data centers popping up aren't for the benefit of the average individual out there. You know that. You know this. Although Elon Musk might say that it's going to be a utopian society where AI does everything for us and you can just chill. Don't worry. Once AGI comes out, AI is just going to take care of everything in the world. And all the elites who have been running the world for hundreds and hundreds of years are just going to sit back and just be like, I give up my greed and my power. I'll let AI take care of it now. Yeah. they're just going to relinquish their power and let AI take over. I don't think so. Now, do I think all this shit is going to come to fruition? I really don't. I can't speculate what's going to happen, but I do know a major shift is coming. A major transformation is coming. I remember saying that as like a child. I always knew something fucking big and significant is going to happen in my lifetime. I always felt that. I never knew what it meant. But even as a 12, 13-year-old, I could look into the world and be like, yeah, this isn't sustainable, obviously, at all. This is not a way for conscious, sentient, divine human beings to be living. Period. It's not. It's not. It's not sustainable. We have been completely disconnected from the natural universe, universal law, and Mother Earth. That is why people have so much anxiety. That is why people have so much fear. Because they've built these fear-based systems to keep you psychologically in handcuffs. And God forbid you take a risk in life. Because what if this happens? Or what if that happens? What if I fail? What if I lose everything? What am I going to do for money? It's a fear-based reality that they have created, which is the illusion. We are disconnected from who we truly are. And knowing that, once you learn that, once you go within enough, you know this can't go on. You know that something has to change. And like I said, there are a shitload of people out there saying exactly what I'm saying. It takes a lot of us to try to at least help awaken and guide and point people in the right direction. And hey, you might not agree with everything I say here. You might not even know what the fuck I'm talking about. But you can look out into the world and you can see that there is a massive, significant disconnection between most people and the natural world. Most people and what's inside of them. Most people have no fucking idea who they are or what they're capable of because they follow predetermined paths that, sure, there's challenges in life for everybody. But when you're following predetermined paths that have been mapped out by 5 billion other people ahead of you, you know there's not much risk there. There's not a whole lot of stepping outside of the box. There's not too much challenge there that's going to press you to your absolute psychological, emotional, physical, and spiritual limits. It's the path that society has built. It's the safe path. So, yeah, of course there's challenges there, but you're not finding out who you truly are. So, yeah, I think something very significant is coming. And that's not fear-mongering. I'm not saying it's going to be bad. It potentially could be amazing. Because I do think people are waking up, and I do think the powers that be are being pressed. They are being challenged. It is psychological. That is why they're psyoping society left and fucking right constantly. Because people are waking up. They don't know how to react to this. They've never had this situation before. They've pretty much been able to control the minds of most people. But now something's happening where the consciousness is rising and awakening in many, many people. And to counteract that awakening, they are throwing all sorts of fucking shit at you online, through the media, through entertainment, through fucking everything, to distract you from going within yourself. And one thing I can say is, from personal experience, I look at social media a little bit. I don't follow news at all. I see headlines. I hear what people talk about. I'm kind of up to date with what's going on, but I got rid of that. I don't look at any news, any alternative news, any of the alternative conspiracy theory people. I don't follow anything because I realized how much anxiety it was giving me, which builds resentment. All that shit gives you anxiety if you don't know how to perceive it properly, if you don't know how to receive it properly. And the only way to do that is by going within yourself. And that doesn't happen overnight. It is a process that takes a lot of time. Once you understand yourself, then you can understand the world better, why things are the way they are. Especially once you see it from a spiritual, cosmic, and astrological realm. I mean, there's very well-known quote in the financial world that J.P. Morgan, way back in the early 1900s, says he uses astrology to make investing decisions. Like, the people in power know how this universe works. That is why they're distracting you. If you think all this is nonsense, if you don't think the sun, the moon, all the energy from the universe, all the energy from the planet, its geomagnetic field, all these CMEs blasting Earth, if you don't think that affects your psychology and physiology, then I don't know what to tell you, because it all works together. That is how this universe is created. The people in charge understand these things about energy. They understand these things about the human consciousness. They understand the human mind and how it works. They understand that they don't need to send armies out anymore to control people. They know that it can be done psychologically, which is happening. They know they just need to distract you enough to keep you from going within yourself and understanding who you are. But they now know that people are starting to wake up. That is why it is so fucking weird out there. That is why there's so much disharmony and imbalance and chaos going on in the world. Because people are waking up. But that is a very uncomfortable situation. When you wake up, it sucks. It is extremely uncomfortable. You're extremely unbalanced. A lot of people temporarily lose their mind and enter a state of psychosis. Like, it is extremely uncomfortable. So if you have that happening peppered around the planet throughout billions of people, there's definitely going to be imbalance, discomfort, a lot of fear, a lot of chaos happening because people are waking up. And then add the psychological and spiritual tactics that the powers that be are trying to use to counteract this awakening. You have a crazy fucking world, and it seems like there's no more sense of normalcy. This is why. So the point of this video is just to tell you, yeah, something's fucking coming. There is no doubt about it. You can either accept it and try to change the decisions you make in your life, or you can deny it, and I promise you it's not going to be a fun ride. But hey, I don't know what's going to happen, and nor can I speculate exactly what's going to happen. It could be the most wonderful thing that humanity's ever experienced. But there's a transition in that period between the chaos now and whatever that is. There has to be a transition. These things don't happen overnight. Most people in the world right now couldn't handle the energy they would feel of being the greatest version of themselves. They have to work up to that. And you have to go through the discomfort of getting there. You don't become a better person through ease and not having to face very significant and dark challenges. You get there through the darkness. You get there through really fucking hard situations. You get there through lived experience, and that takes time. So even whatever is coming, even if that's a great thing, which I actually think is what's going to happen, there still has to be a period of significant chaos, disbalance, and discomfort, which is already happening. You can already see this. So honestly, yeah, if people don't wake up, yeah, it could go down a dark road, but I do think the world is the way it is right now because people are awakening to the realities of the world, to the realities of the systems, the institutions, the money, the government, the corruption, everything dirty out there. People are waking up to it. And once you wake up to this, it basically becomes a spiritual journey. Like, I never knew it would become what it has for me. I had no idea. It was a natural evolution to where I am now. I was never into this. Not until my fucking 6 years ago. I'll be 40 in 3 weeks today. I was never spiritual or faithful or godly in any sense. I pondered these questions significantly, but I didn't have answers to it. So I was kind of in the middle and I had no idea. But now it makes sense, the person I was and what I felt growing up my entire life. Now it makes perfect sense what I've always been feeling. And it turns out it's deeply, deeply spiritual. And now I know who I am. I know what I'm capable of, but that doesn't mean all the challenges just go away. But it means once you experience and go through extremely challenging times, and during that going into yourself intentionally to release whatever anxiety, depression, and trauma you might have, and observe it and watch it and fucking feel it, which absolutely is the most uncomfortable thing you're going to possibly experience in life. Once you get through that, it all starts coming together. Now, I don't know all the answers to the universe, and I never will. But I understand myself a lot better, and I understand what's going on in this material world a lot better. It all comes together, and you can zoom the fuck out and look at everything with a lot more ease and start to understand things a lot more objectively. And then you can zoom in and break everything down and analyze it and understand it from that perspective. What you do come to find is there are a significant amount of paradoxes in the world. How can this happen if this is happening? There's so much complexity to everything going on. And that's probably just how we perceive it is a paradox, because we're not going to be able to explain everything and all the intricacies and nuances of everything going on in the world. It's extremely complex. Humans are extremely complex, and the universe is extremely complex. So from our perspective, it seems to be very paradoxical, but when you zoom out a little bit more, you understand it. It makes sense why the universe was created this way. And that helps. That helps your perception in the world. That helps relieve fear. That helps you observe your emotions more. It becomes easier. But anyways, this is why I'm speaking out. Something is coming. We all know the world we live in is not sustainable. You don't need to be spiritual or atheist. It doesn't matter. You know it's not sustainable. So what do you do about it? What do you do about it? Not them, not anyone else. What do you do about it? That's the only way your life is going to start making more sense and start being more enjoyable, start experiencing more peace and happiness in your life, is when you do the work on yourself and stop pointing fingers out there. Not that I'm trying not to be on a pedestal here, but I'm trying to help.